Hop into my Pro Tour, humble brag. It was the day before I turned 23.
Very nice.
It's just like right around birthday time.
Nice
Absolutely,
birthday
yeah.
gift.
Let's do this. And Reid is in here 24, 2-0. Maybe he'll take down Legacy Open here with Elves. A deck that I'm again a little surprised to see him playing. His range is kind of wide as far as what decks he'll play.
He can play anything.
Yeah,
I think he just wants to. Yeah, I think he just enjoys playing decks that give him the best chance of winning. I don't think he has an archetype in particular.
His opponent, Zachary Reyburn, playing Rug Delver, the enemy.
The enemy, yeah. Rug Delver is one of those decks. It's a fair deck, and it's very good. It has a very good matchup against some of the unfair decks. I'd say it probably has a better matchup against the unfair decks. Of all the fair decks, it probably has a better matchup against the unfair decks than a deck like Esper Blade or Bug, something like that.
We see a Stifle going to take care of Duke's Wooded Foothills, so no land for him and get those elves started. So Reyburn with Stifles in his main deck, 4 of them, pretty much the standard nowadays.
Standard. His creature base is Delver, Seeker's Doom, Mongoose, and Tarmogoyf, and then, he leans on his spells, cards like Ponder, Brainstorm, to sort of smooth his draws, and then he has those permission spells in Force of Will and Daze. He also has 4 copies of Stifle, which are very effective against like a pseudo or a land destruction spell against the sack lands. And he also has 4 copies of Lightning Bolt and 1 Forked Bolt and 1 Dismember in terms of removal, both of which are actually pretty effective against elves. So we'll see if he actually can draw that side of his deck.
Wow.
But Reid just stalled on mana, which isn't surprising.
Stifle ruined him. That's crazy.
Stifle can be very effective against elves, particularly when under play, because elves does not play many lands. It plays a lot of mana elves. But if you can't get that 1 forest into play, then it doesn't really do you much good to have all those Nettle Sentinels, Heritage Druids in your hand.
As you see, Reyburn is going to cast and resolve a Brainstorm here. You mentioned the land count in the Elves deck, only 20 for Duke, 4 of which are Gaia's Cradles, and those aren't very good right now. So he's looking at he's drawing basically 15 lands. If you want to even look worse here, 2 of which could be Dryad Arbor, which those are summoning sick, they don't tap right away, and Reyburn could bolt those. So Reid is drawing a little bit thin as far as lands are concerned. If you want to take another thing into account, any fetch lands that he draws moving forward could be stifled as well. So he's looking for that Singleton Forest, maybe the Savannah or the 2 copies of Bayou to start turning his deck on a little bit here.
Yeah, Zach just needs any of his creatures, really. Reid doesn't have a good way to interact with creatures, so any of the creatures in Zach's deck should be enough to kind of lock this game down for him. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have a Delver or a Tarmogoyf in place, so still digging a little bit. He does have Brainstorm, and he just cast Brainstorm, and he has another Brainstorm in his hand, I believe a Ponder too, so he will get a little more manipulation. Hopefully for him, Reid continues to brick on lands, which it looks like has happened again.
Yeah, he's going to pick him up, actually. So Reid Duke is going to concede game number 1 based off of simply a Stifle. Zachary Reyburn up a game against the World Championship runner-up.
And the funny thing is, we've seen Reid on camera, and we've always talked about how he'll never concede.
I know, I'm a little surprised.
No matter how daunting it looks. However, though, he only played a Wooded Foothills, and
I
had
see
it
where you're
stifled.
going. Okay.
So at this point, unless Zachary saw what Reid was playing in the earlier rounds, Zachary might not know what to do. When your opponent stacks a Foothills in this format, you could be Rug Delver, you could be Jund, you could be Elves. I don't even know if is Elves even one of the decks you would put him on? If you see a turn 1 Wooded Foothills, there's a number of decks you can have, and especially considering it's Reid Duke, it's certainly possible he's putting him on the Natural Order deck that he's kind of known for, no ban.
Yep, he's been known to play no Bant or no Rug.
Yeah.
As you said, this can put him on Rug. This can put him on a wide range of decks, as you said. And so I think, as you mentioned, Reid is not one to concede games often. He'll make the opponent kill you, which is a good thing to practice. It's a good habit to have. But here, he's definitely concealing information.
Yeah, I think it's it's really a tactical play there, because he just doesn't want to give up a lot of information, because especially in a format like this where sideboarding is so important, if Zachary just sideboards assuming it's one deck and not the other, then it could be a huge mistake for him.
And also, the timing of when Reid conceded was a big deal as well, as he was going to go to his discard. He had 8 cards in his hand, so if he discards any of the cards in his deck, you take a look at an Elves deck list here, what card can you discard that doesn't give away what you're doing?
Yeah.
I think the best 2
Green
in
Sun
theory,
Zenith, maybe.
Zenith and Natural Order, I think that's it, but those are huge giveaways as well, that you can put them on a range of decks then, maybe like a Maverick deck or the no Rug or no Bant deck. So I think a pretty smart concession there by Duke. He could have discarded Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
That could be a range of decks. There you got Shardless Bug, Esper Deathblade, even though Esper Deathblade doesn't play Wooded Foothills. So he could have discarded a Deathrite Shaman, but as it stands, Reid doing everything he can to conceal information. So we're going to take a look at the sideboard, and we will start with Mr. Duke and his 4 Thought Seizes, 3 Cabal Therapies, 2 Mind Break Traps, 2 Abrupt Decays, a Qasali Pride Mage, a Scavenging Ooze, a Progenitus, and a Natural Order. No surprise there. That's what Reid likes to do. I don't think the discard's very effective in this matchup. I don't really care much for Mind Break Trap. I think Abrupt Decay will be pretty good. Take care of those Tarmogoyfs and Delver Secrets if he wants to kind of slow down an aggressive strategy from Reyburn. He's also got Scavenging Ooze, which can be pretty good here as well. But I think what he's going to want to do is basically keep his normal game plan intact. He could go towards Progenitus, however, as well.
Well, I actually think he kind of wants to go for Progenitus plan because the rug decks generally have cards like Rough and Tumble, which can be very devastating for elves to deal with. So a lot of the ways I think Reid can win is by not overcommitting to the board. And one of the ways you can try to not overcommit to the board is just with the natural order plan. You really only need like a Heritage Druid in play or an Elvish Visionary, something that you can sacrifice to the natural order. But one of the ways in order to force that through against a deck with Force of Wills and Days and everything is by using Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapy. So I actually think it's possible that Reid might just say, in order to beat Rug, I'm probably going to need to resolve a natural order to go for Progenitus because my opponent might have some number of Rough and Tumbles. So I'm just going to try to go for the natural order plan, which means I need that hand disruption.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be it's a tough call for Reid. I just think it's difficult for the combo deck to sort of go off, for the elf deck to go off against a deck like Rug, because they have cards like Fork Bolt and Lightning Bolt and then Rough and Tumble after board, which makes it very difficult for you to get that critical mass of elves that makes your Crater of Behemoth effective. So it'll be interesting to see what Reid does here. Typically, though, those Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapies are for the combo matchups.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he needs the Thoughtseizes. Maybe just Cabal Therapy is enough, because Cabal Therapy is the kind of card that, if you're going for the combo, you can just go for try to go for the Force of Wills, but you can also randomly destroy Zach if he has like multiple Tarmogoyfs in his hand.
Sure.
Because you have plenty of creatures that you can flash back with. So.
You mentioned Rough and Tumble and Reyburn's board. He's got 2 copies of that. 2 Power Blast of Light from the Loam of Vendilion Click, Submerge, which could be quite good here as well. Frozen Grip, Flusterstorm, Tormod's Script, and Ancient Grudge. So I think, just very quickly, 2 Rough and Tumble certainly easy, and then Submerge is quite good as well. I think.
Well, the question is, though, does Zachary know what Reid's playing? Because, again, he didn't see much game 1. However, a player of Reid's caliber, it's not surprising if you're in between rounds, you're walking around and you kind of watch what the rest of the room is playing. Reid is definitely one of those players you want to keep your eye on. So it's certainly possible that Zach does know what Reid is playing. But either way, I think given how bad game 1 looked for Reid, I wouldn't fault him for trying to just concede there and give away as little information as possible.
Yeah, I like the concealing of information at the end of game 1 there by Duke. He's going to sacrifice Wooded Foothills, start at 19, play a Finhorn Elf, and if there is not a bigger sign of what's going on, I think this is about as obvious as it gets.
At this point, Zach knows what's up. Looks like he has a couple options on turn 1. I believe he has either a Brainstorm or Ponder. He also has a Lightning Bolt if he chooses to deal with that Finhorn Elves right now.
So we're going to start by sacrificing a Misty Rain for us. Reyburn going through his deck, look for one of those dual lands. It's going to be a Volcanic Island, but perhaps we're going to see a Lightning Bolt here on that Finhorn Elf. Could be a Ponder or Brainstorm as well, or maybe even a creature in Delver's Secrets.
Delver's Secrets would be a pretty good draw here. I don't think he really needs to Lightning Bolt the Finhorn Elf just now. This isn't sort of like the standard format where the turn 1 mana accelerant is so huge. Reid's deck is so streamlined that it's really the cards like Nettle Sentinel and Heritage Druid and Deathrite Shaman that you're more afraid of. But Zachary does decide to just cast a Lightning Bolt on the Finhorn Elf there.
Yeah, very, very high density of mana accelerants in Duke's deck, assuming that he is able to get a land in play. You do mention that they do have Llanowar Elves, Finhorn Elves. Then there's the more important elves like Nettle Sentinel, Deathrite Shaman, and Heritage Druid. So when to pick, and we can't forget about Clearing Ranger either. So when to pick and choose with those Lightning Bolts can be a difficult thing to do, actually.
Yeah, and of all the elves in Reid's deck, Finhorn Elf is actually the weakest. I mean, he only has 2 copies along with 1 copy of Llanowar Elf. That's not really the elf he cares about. It's really the Deathrite Shamans and the Heritage Druids. Those are the important elves, and Clearing Ranger to a lesser degree too. But so I don't think Reid's unhappy that the Finhorn Elf was killed there. And the thing is, Reid doesn't have like 3 drops in his deck. His deck is basically mostly all 1 drop. So it's not like Reid's going to be ramping up to something else or anything like that.
You see Duke playing that Wooded Foothills, and then casting Deathrite Shaman so he can play around days appropriately.
Yep.
Then he's going to sacrifice the fetch land on his turn. Looks like he's got a spell to cast, and it's going to be a Heritage Druid. You can offer up the days here to Reyburn if you'd like to take it, but sequencing here is certainly important. You know, it looks like the Deathrite Shaman is much more important to Reid than the Heritage Druid is, as he's offering this up to a daze, but that's not going to happen. So both are going to resolve, and we'll go to Reyburn's turn.
Reyburn draws a Force of Will this turn.
Has a Wasteland in his hand as well. Wonder if he's going to use that to take care of the Bayou. Wonder if Reid wants that to actually happen. Again, Reid only does have one basic in his deck, just one force to go along with a lot of non-basics. So Reyburn is going to use that Wasteland, take care of the black-green dual land. And we'll see what Reyburn's follow-up's going to be. Maybe it's time for a little bit of cantripping.
Yeah, I don't think you can play Delver here, but I don't think it's that effective anymore, just because Reid has two of his more powerful elves in play. And this is sort of the critical turn where, you know, it's potentially, he can just cast a natural order. But, you know, Zach has a little bit of a breathing room there. He has a Force of Will, but if Reid is able to top deck a Cabal Therapy or Thoughtseize, maybe he can force that through. But looks like he has a Green Sun Zenith here. So let's see what Reid's options are. He has access currently to 2 mana. However, if he plays another elf, he'll have access to 3 mana using the Heritage Druid's ability.
Alright, so he's going to start off with little green mana. We're going to go with a Quirion Ranger.
And yep, Force of Will. So it just shows you how powerful that Quirion Ranger is. Reyburn decides to actually use the Force of Will on it.
It looked like to me that Reyburn was going to counter any elf that Reid played, so he couldn't get to activate the Heritage Druid for 3 mana. That's what it felt like to me. I don't... It was a very fast Force of Will to me, where he just played a third elf, and he was just like, yeah, counter that. I can't let you get to that massive mana where you can actually start making a bunch. So I don't know if he would have countered any elf, but it felt like a pretty fast Force of Will to me.
Yeah, maybe that was his logic. Either way, though, I agree with the Force of Will. You can't let Quirion Ranger resolve in this situation. It's just too good. In particular, you know, it lets you kind of continue to cast spells, returning lands to your hand, untapping creatures. So similar to what Wired Symbiote's about to do. It can sort of untap the Deathrite Shaman and get another activation out of it.
Duke able to put that Symbiote into play with Deathrite Shaman, removing a fetch land, actually the Wasteland, there from Reyburn's graveyard. So we'll see if Reid's going to make any more moves. Again, remember the Symbiote is an insect, not an elf, so can't generate a bunch of mana just yet. You see Duke's hand, he does have another Heritage Druid over there, but he's just going to pass the turn back. No attacks, no nothing. So Reyburn is going to check the top card of his deck. Maybe he'll Brainstorm first with the Delver's Secret trigger on the stack. We'll find out in just a second.
Yes, it looks like with the trigger on the stack, he is going to cast Brainstorm to sort of set up that Delver's Secrets to make sure it flips this turn. Looks like there's like a Taxian Probe, a land. Doesn't look like there's any red removal spells, so looks like Reid's creatures are safe for now.
You know, it's a very uncomfortable feeling because Reid does have experience playing Rug Delver as well. As we said, his range is pretty wide on the decks that he'll play. Always playing the deck that he feels gives him the best chance to win. He knows that Rug Delver has Rough and Tumble. You know, so, and that's not something that's going to be coming this turn, but it is scary. You see Gataxian Probe going to be revealed to Delver's Secrets, going to morph that into an Insectile Aberration. But it is scary that your creatures could all get Pyroclasmed away at any moment. But he's safe for this turn.
Yeah, and we haven't really seen any sideboard cards yet from Zachary. So, again, we don't really know if Reid's concession ended up costing Zachary to sideboard incorrectly yet.
There could be no Rough Tumbles in the deck right
now.
Yeah,
you don't know.
It'll be really interesting to see if we do end up going to a Game 3, if Reyburn immediately reaches for a sideboard. Maybe I sideboarded wrong, I had no idea what you were playing, something of that nature. Either way, you're going to see a Scalding Tarn search out a Tropical Island. We'll see what Reyburn's going to play in his second main phase after getting in for 3 points of damage with a 3/2 flyer.
So it may be just a sacrifice my land there to shuffle my deck because I did put 2 cards back on top of it for Brainstorm. So we'll see if he has a follow-up here or not. Maybe he just wants to cast a Taxian Probe without taking damage. Nope, he's getting paid too. So
Probe is going to get cast. Reyburn's going to move down to 16. And we're going to take a look at Duke's hand and see exactly what he has, which is a Green Sun Zenith and a Heritage Druid. So Green Sun Zenith is basically his one action spell right now.
Pretty good action spell, though. It can search for a Elvish Visionary, which will net him a card, and then he can return it with the Wirewood Symbiote, untap a creature, and start going off, so to speak, that way.
Get the engine online,
Yep.
Get a little deeper into his deck.
Looks like Nimble Mongoose is going to come down here. Oh, no, Ponder.
Okay. Get a little bit deeper. That's the thing about this Rug Delver deck. It can find certain cards to do all of the cantrips that it does have and the shuffling, so it can maybe find that rough and tumble that Reyburn may have boarded in. Hard to say if he did, of course, because again, Duke did concede game 1 very hastily, not giving away any information.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason people like this deck so much is because the sheer number of cantrips, there's so much velocity in the deck that you can kind of smooth out your draws really well. There's very rare few times that you're ever going to get mana flooded or mana screwed with a deck like this. Things have to go really wrong for that to happen. So kind of lends to itself to being a very consistent deck, which is something you want in a format like this.
You see Reyburn's going to shuffle away with the Ponder here, going to be drawing a mystery card momentarily. But yeah, you see the consistent 8 cantrips in Ponder and Brainstorm, but a lot of people have been adapting Gitaxian Probe. Salt and Baltimore, Chris Pakula. You see it here with Reyburn. It just seems like a lot of people are moving towards that as like the 9th and 10th cantrip in the deck. And I actually kind of like it, just because of the information that you get.
Yeah, I think people don't value how important having that information, especially in a format like Legacy, where there's so many decks and there's so many decisions to make, and you're so punished if you make the wrong decision. You know, in Standard, if you make a mistake, you know, the cards aren't as powerful as they are in Legacy, so you could maybe overcome. Like maybe you make a mistake and they end up having like a Selesnya charm or something. But in Legacy, if you make a mistake and they actually can go off this turn, then you're just dead.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that, you know, it's a cantrip, but it also gives you some valuable information and allows you to craft what your next few turns are going to be.
We see Duke is going to, oh boy,
Ooh,
Duke
nice
is
draw.
going to cast that Heritage Druid. Now he's going to Green Sun Zenith after playing a guy's Cradle. And it looks like this is going to be for 2, I would imagine, to go get the old Elvish Visionary and get the card drawing online.
So great draw from Reid there. He has now access to 4 mana, so he can Green Sun Zenith for an Elvish Visionary. And if he actually draws a natural order, he can cast it this turn and actually just search out a Progenitor.
You cast it right through a Daze with the greatest of ease.
Yeah. And even if he doesn't draw anything, he can still return the Elvish Visionary to his hand with Wirewood Symbiote, but he can generate 5 mana first to sort of continue to sort of cast spells.
So Visionary is going to come into play. Draw card trigger is going to be on the stack, will be happening as soon as the deck is given back to Reid. He's going to draw himself a card. Remember that he can activate the Wirewood Symbiote. He can bounce that Elvish Visionary back to his hand and untap something. You're going to see him add 5 mana with the Gaia's Cradle, so he's going to have 5 green mana floating. Do those 5 creatures in play. There is your legendary land from Urza's Saga. Somehow the second best one from that set.
Elvish Visionary gets returned, untaps Deathrite Shaman, and it comes back down to net Reid another card. He has 3 green mana left in his mana pool. Looks like he might have just drawn a land. I'm not sure if he drew 2 lands for the turn. Either way, he could potentially just activate Deathrite Shaman for green, gain 2 life, or did he draw something else? Oh, very good draw.
Okay.
So another symbiote, which will allow him to return the Elvish Visionary yet again, untap a Heritage Druid this time, and then he can actually recast the Elvish Visionary, and then he'll have 3 elves untapped if he wants to generate another 3 mana.
And so he is going to untap the Druid. He is going to return the Visionary back to his hand. Now both symbiotes have been used for the turn. Again, you can only use this ability once each turn. So now Duke is going to recast that Elvish Visionary. Going to draw another card. Not sure what he ran into there.
Looks like I think he has all land now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Windswept Heath, maybe Savannah, but looks like he just has no more action for the turn. However, he is set up pretty well for the next turn because it looks like as long as nothing crazy happens, he should be able to draw 3 cards next turn to try to get into what he needs.
Yeah, 3 cards a turn is a pretty good spot to be in. And he's even going to turn a few creatures sideways here. Here comes Heritage Druid, here comes Wirewood Symbiote. The Visionary does have something from the sickness, and Deathrite Shaman could attack, but it's going to hang back on defense. And Duke will pass the turn back to Reyburn. So Duke does have an army of 1/1s and that 1/2 Deathrite Shaman out there, but is threatening to draw, as you mentioned, 3 cards a turn. You see Reyburn going to go through his hand. He does have a Ponder. He's also staring at a Lightning Bolt. Problem is with that Lightning Bolt, he's not going to be able to snag one of those Elvish Visionaries because part of the cost for Wirewood Symbiote is actually returning an elf to your hand.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to catch one.
Yeah, and Reid has redundancy in the cards that matters. He has 2 Wirewood Symbiotes. He has 2 Heritage Druids. And like you said, he can't really snag that Elvish Visionary. So Lightning Bolt, really the only effective target is Deathrite Shaman, but again, he could save it with the Wirewood Symbiote. So I think his probably best bet is to just Lightning Bolt one of the Wirewood Symbiotes to kind of slow down Reid a little bit.
Yep. It's kind of funny. That's the one that you have to take care of first. You have to take care of the symbiote before you can actually take care of the other things.
Yeah. So the question is, does Zach just kind of want to dig first? Again, we don't know if he has a rough and tumble in his deck because Reid conceded relatively early, so it's possible Zach didn't know what to put him on. But looks like we're going to see a Ponder first. So Ponder gets cast by Zachary. He's going to look at the top 3 cards in his library, get a little more information, figure out how he wants to play this turn. Doesn't look like he's too ecstatic with his options.
And not a quick resolution of Ponder. Having to consult his hand and those 3 cards, crafting a game plan here. Of course, he's attacking with the Insectile Aberration, but this is a game where I don't think Insectile Aberration is going to be the most important thing. He's going to need to find cards that actually stop Reid from going off.
Yeah, honestly, another Insectile Aberration will give him an out of Lightning Bolt, because he has 1 Lightning Bolt in his hand, and Reid's at 12, so...
Duke's going to go, Reyburn's going to go down to 11. Yep, and there are the 2 lands that you mentioned, Windswept Heath and a Savannah in Duke's hand. So Reyburn's going to draw a card that he did put back from Ponder.
Delver would be a pretty good draw right here. Oh, especially with the Wasteland on the Guy's Cradle, so that's good. So now if Reid actually does draw a natural order for the Craterhoof Behemoth, he'll have to tap a lot of his creatures down. But I think it's still probably lethal either way. But.
And you see Duke is going to remove a land from the graveyard. Then he's going to return his Elvish Visionary, and it looks like he's going to gain life here with Deathrite Shaman. Removes his his Finhorn Elves, keep his life total ahead.
Yeah, because I think Reid was noticing what we're noticing too. Is like at 12, Delver, Bolt. Suddenly you could be in burn range, which is one of the ways that Reid can win. Because I think Reid has probably maybe 1 or 2 turns before he can kind of realistically just go off, so to speak, based on his draw so far. But Reid giving himself a little life cushion now, I think buying himself at least 2 more turns against Zachary being able to burn him out, potentially.
So Duke starts his turn off by tapping those 3 elves for 3 green mana. Visionary comes into play, he'll draw a card, does have a green mana floating. Symbiote's going to untap that Deathrite Shaman. He'll tap a green here with his Forest. So he'll have no mana floating, and there's an Elvish Visionary placed onto the stack. And that one's going to resolve as well, so a card deeper. Probably looking for a Gaia's Cradle right now. I think that's one of the more important draw steps.
Or at least a natural order, I think. Honestly, he looks like he's getting a little land flooded. He drew, it looks like he has 3 to 4 lands in his hand right now. He can activate another Wirewood Symbiote, so looks like he has a Deathrite Shaman, so he can tap those 3 elves for 3 mana and then activate the second Wirewood Symbiote to return the Elvish Visionary and draw another card for the turn. And it looks like that's exactly what he's doing. So he's generating now. He has 3 green mana in his mana pool using the Heritage Drew's ability, activating the second Wirewood Symbiote to return the Elvish Visionary to his hand, untap a Deathrite Shaman.
And he's trying to get deeper, that's for sure.
So he's 3 mana in his pool, and he uses 2 of them to cast the Elvish Visionary, just drawing a card. And it looks like that was a Llanowar Elf drawing with it. So he does have the natural order. Yeah, he does have that natural order. So if don't think he's gonna be able to cast it this turn, but if Zachary doesn't draw either a counter spell or a Rough and Tumble, it looks like Reid's gonna be able to win next turn using the natural order for Craterhoof Behemoth play.
Yeah, the old Behemoth gets you for $1 million play. one of the better ones out there. Yeah, as long as Reyburn doesn't run into a Forcible or anything like that, and I don't think we see his hand right now. He's got a Bolt,
Nimble Mongoose.
And he's going to take down the Visionary.
Yeah.
He's actually able to now because the Symbiotes have both been used.
Exactly. So Visionary goes down. It looks like Reyburn just drew a Tropical Island for the turn. Doesn't have any more cantrips, so what you see is what you get right now. He's got the Delver of Secrets in play, a Nimble Mongoose, a Tropical Island in hand. I don't believe he has anything else that can really interact with Reid's side of the board. So if Reid does decide to go over next turn, which I suspect he will, it looks like Reid will be able to win this game if he has at least 1 Craterhoof Behemoth left in his deck.
Tell you what, I'd be surprised if he didn't go for it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that the odds of him having a Forcible in his hand, considering he only has 2 cards left, is pretty good. And even if he does, he'll have an empty hand, and Reid still has plenty of gas in play. Reid can actually even potentially just win the game by attacking at this point, because Zachary is at 9.
Yeah, it's kind of funny with the Elves deck. The damage does add up. You don't think it does, but it actually does end up adding up quite quickly.
Well, you notice this in general in Legacy. It's like a lot of these decks, you end up just winning with like 1/1s because all your decks end up doing so much damage. So it's like if you look at a bug deck, those bug decks usually just win with a Baleful Strix or something in the air.
That and the Shardless Agent.
Yeah. You just ping away with 2/2s and 1/1s.
So Duke has cast a Glimpse of Nature, and now he's going to get the ball rolling here. You see Reyburn's going to take a look at that Savannah. Green and white mana, my friend. You see Glimpse of Nature on the screen whenever you play a creature spell. This turn, draw a card. That means Visionary is going to draw 2. And he's going to keep this train rolling here. And this is what the original Elves deck did back in those Berlin days when Luis Scott Vargas won the Pro Tour out there. This was the engine that brought it all together. And no, Legacy, the version, of course, it can go off this way, but the reason I actually like the Legacy version is that it's not reliant on Glimpse of Nature.
No.
It's just one piece of the puzzle. It's actually probably the scariest piece of the puzzle when it has this draw going, but it can win through natural order, which happens a lot more nowadays.
Yeah, and it looks like Reid is going to use the Wireward Symbiote's ability, return an Elvish Visionary's hand, and then use the remaining mana to cast it. Draw 2 cards now. Looks like he might have drawn just another... Yeah, it looks like he has another Glimpse in his hand. So at this point, you think he just 3 mana... Oh, so he's going to 3 mana, he's going to go for it, he's going to do it again. So same thing, 3 mana, return the Elvish Visionary's hand, untap Deathrite Shaman, play the Visionary. Draw a card. I think he really wants a Gaia's Creator. Now he really wants a Gaia's Creator.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Be able to cast Natural Order with plenty of mana, and even if it does get forced, just unleash more elves onto the table and win through attacking next turn.
Symbiote will come in, cantrip yet again.
Now he can activate the third Wireward Symbiote now, returning another Elvish Visionary, and now he has 3 untapped elves, so he also has access to generate 3 more mana. He has not played a land yet this turn, I believe, either. So yes, here we go. We have 3 mana. Looks like he's going to use 2 of it to cast Elvish Visionary. That's exactly what he does. He's going to draw him 2 cards now, 1 off the Glimpse, 1 off the Visionary itself. Looks like he drew a Heritage Druid in his hand and a Deathrite Shaman.
You see how he's very, for lack of a better term, kind of robotic with his motions. Just very, very clear exactly what's going on at all times. Playing the creature, resolving it, triggering the Elvish Visionary, drawing a card like that. Just very, very good mechanics.
Yeah.
Something I always like to see when someone's playing a... This deck can be complicated at times, just to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page exactly what's going on at all times, because you are drawing a lot of cards, there's a lot of returning of creatures. You know, you don't want to use Symbiote multiple times in one turn, stuff like that. So it's really good mechanics to watch.
So Reid can play another elf for 1 mana if he has one in his hand, which I believe he does.
I think there's a pretty good chance
He'll be able to
of
draw
that.
a card, and then he can actually tap 3 mana to using the Heritage Druid ability to cast more elves. So he's just going to be spewing elves onto the table right now, setting up a kill next turn. Don't think he can get to, unless he has multiple Nettle Sentinels. Which,
it doesn't look like he's found any yet.
Looks like he has 1 now. He just found 1, it looks like. So he's going to be able to draw a card. He still has access to 2 mana. So if he has 2 more elves, he can kind of keep this party going. It looks like he has a Green Sun Zenith, so he can actually Green Sun Zenith for the last... He can search for a Ranger, which can keep the party going.
Aquarian Ranger? And that's a card we'll bring up on the screen too. Aquarian Ranger is kind of this unique elf. I believe it's from Visions.
Yeah, Kyrian Ranger.
I feel so good to be right. See the V there. Return a force you control to owner's hand. Untap target creature.
Yeah. So now because he had a Nettle Sentinel and he's able to search for the Kyrian Ranger, I believe he should be able to win this turn.
And there's your Heritage Druid. Draw a card.
Oh, actually, I'm not sure if he has any mana left though.
Yeah, he should have 1 floating.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he should have 1 green left because he did tap the 3. Then he played Nettle Sentinel. Then he played Heritage Druid. So you see him kind of lining up some guys here. So maybe he doesn't. Got a lot of lands in his hand. If he does have a Aquarian Ranger, he just gets to keep going, as you didn't mention.
Yeah, because I thought he would have just used 2 mana to search for a Kyrian Ranger, get the Ranger into play, return a forest to untap another elf, and then he have access to 3 mana. And with the Nettle Sentinel in play, he's going to be able to net a mana and cast the natural order and just kill him with the Crater of Behemoth. So, looks like he passed the turn. Zach basically is all in on drawing a Rough and Tumble, which we're not even sure if he has in his deck at this point. So
he's going to come in here with Insect Operation and a Threshold of Nimble Mongoose here. You're going to see Duke going to put the Heritage Druid in front there. He can return it back with one of those 3 Wirewood Symbiotes, untap the Deathrite Shaman. 3 damage is going to come across in the air. Duke going to go down to 9. I think Reyburn is just going to pass that turn back. Duke says, I'm going to remove a little something from the graveyard. I'm going to activate Symbiote again, return my Elvis Mystic, and let's do a little list remove action. And that is going to be it. Zachary Reyburn's going to pick up his cards, and we're going to go to the third and final one here, my friend, between Duke and Reyburn, Elves versus Rug Delver.
Well, if he didn't have Rough and Tumble in his main deck for Game 2, he is most assuredly going to have it in his main deck for Game 3.
No, I'm actually going to watch Reyburn here. Okay, he's reaching for the box right now. I really want to see if he's just going to pull these 2 cards out very fast, potentially 5 with the Submerge.
I hope he pulls 2 out and just slams them on the table.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to take out these Pyroblasts. I thought he was on no ban.
Yeah. I've watched him before. He always plays those no-ban decks, but he's going to sideboard a couple of cards, and it looks like he is sideboarding in between 4 to 6 cards right now. So, as you said, if Rough Tumble wasn't there before, it is now.
Yeah, I like bringing in the Submerge. I like bringing in the Rough and Tumbles. Do you keep in the Stifle?
Boy, that's tough. Okay, so let's take a look at Stifleable cards here. Cards that are relevant. I mean, outside of Fetch Lands, which is actually what won Reyburn Game 1, it's going to be certainly appealing to want to do that. You can stifle a Elvish Visionary trigger, but I'm not sure that's a good use of card. You can stifle a Crater of Behemoth trigger when that comes into play, pumping up the crew. So that's something that you can do. You can stifle a Symbiote trigger. That's momentarily helpful. Outside of that, though, I don't really love it.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's I'm wondering what he's going to be boarding out for these cards. Probably Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce not very good in this matchup.
See, that's really interesting because I've seen some people keep and I've seen some people cut it, like because they have Glimpse and Zenith and Natural Order. So a lot of people feel like you should board it out because it's a very creature-heavy deck that generates a lot of mana. But what I've seen end up happening is that the Elves player assumes that the player that has access to Spell Pierce boards it out and they leave it in, and then they just get Spell Pierce because they don't really play around it anymore. So it's kind of this weird dichotomy about if you do leave it in, if you don't, or if you think your opponent has left it in or they haven't.
Yeah, I think the threat of it alone is good just because, I think they're gonna play around it. You're basically hoping that they don't play around it. Whereas I think a smart player like Reid will probably, considering how deliberately he plays and how cautious he is, he's probably gonna end up playing around that card anyway. So it might be worth it to just board those out and go up and keep the Stifles in, because again, I don't love Stifle, but you mentioned how it can stop a Crater of Behemoth trigger, which can be very relevant. Also, Zachary is on the play, and we saw how he won Game 1 by just stifling that land trigger. So definitely something that's going to be worth considering. And we'll see what Zach ends up doing here. Both players presenting to their opponent and getting ready to draw their opening 7 here.
For Reyburn, pretty important. I think Delver is the more important card here. Nimble Mongoose is certainly fine in this matchup because a lot of the time it's going to be a 3/3, but you want to be able to fly over in the skies. Get a Delver, turn that into an Insectile Aberration. I think that's the big thing, and I think that's exactly how Duke wants to Reyburn wants to get things started here in Game 3 when he's on the play.
Yeah, Rug Delver is similar to like Jund in Standard. It's one of those decks where if Jund goes turn 2 Farseek, it looks amazing. If Rug Delver goes turn 1 Delver, it looks so much better, particularly when that's on the play. So it's one of those decks that looks it's night and day, depending on what they do. So
turn 1
Ponder, not exactly the blue 1-drop.
Yes. We both have the same time. Ponder, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Not a Stifle for a fetch land, which we saw Reyburn be able to win Game 1 with, and not a creature either. No, I don't want to sell Ponder short. It is banned in some formats of Magic and restricted in others, so it's certainly not bad. But for this matchup, I'm with you. I think you do want to start with Delver, get the ball rolling that way.
And this kind of makes me think that Stifle's probably just not right after board here, just because basically Stifle is much worse now. Like it's really only good on turn 1, or at least it's really amazing on turn 1. Right now, any Stifle he draws is probably going to be either dead or ineffective,
Sure.
or not as effective as he was hoping for. Like, obviously, stifling a behemoth is okay. You won't die, but you're still dealing with a 5/5.
Yeah,
so.
which is difficult for Rug Delver to get off the board. Duke going to, of course, use his fetch land right away, stop those stiflings from coming into play. So he's going to go down to 19, and we'll see exactly what one drop he does have to start with. He's got a bevy to choose from.
So Bayou comes into play, and let's see if he has the. I guess Deathrite Shaman is probably the best one you can play here. Yep.
Ding-a-ling, everyone's favorite one too.
So Deathrite Shaman comes down. Let's see what Zachary can muster here. Again, Rug Delver, one of those decks. It really wants to get one of those threats on early into play early. It doesn't have that many counter spells and removal. It has a lot of cantrips, but the deck is really at its strength when it can go turn 1 threat or turn 2 threat, and then for the rest of the game, use the few removal spells it does have to sort of control the board, and then use those cantrips to sort of keep generating velocity through its deck. And even though it doesn't play a large volume of spells, it can see a large volume of spells. So that's how it sort of makes up for it.
You see a Delver of Secrets come down on turn 2 for Reyburn via that tropical island. Wasteland, I thought it may take care of Reid's land, but instead a Dismember takes care of Deathrite Shaman, which I think is the better of the two. I think you want to keep Deathrite Shaman on the board. You can get after the land the next turn if you'd like to.
Yeah, you're basically you have 2 LD spells more or less, because you're getting rid of one and you're guaranteeing you're going to get rid of another land next turn. So Zachary could be in good shape here. Reid was really counting on that Deathrite Shaman to unload more creatures into play. If he only has 1 land, kind of what we saw in game 1. So now it looks like he can use the ability to sort of return a land and replay the Bayou, but so it plays a Nettle Sentinel. So this is actually a pretty good turn for Reid, because if Zachary does try to wasteland the Bayou, he can return it.
Yeah, he cannot.
So not a bad turn for Reid. We're going to see Zachary.
Ooh. Jeez.
Yeah.
You see Reid.
There's that rough and tumble.
Yeah, Reid gives his head the old scratch.
Well, he doesn't have a red source yet, so it looks like he might be digging for the red.
Yeah, the Ponder will probably help do that.
Let's see what he has here. Reid pumping the fist for a shuffle here.
Yeah.
Hoping that Zach is actually digging for a red. Because if he did have a red, you'd figure maybe he would just play it and then rough and tumble, and then see what Reid does. If Reid does return the Bayou or not, use that wasteland, give himself more option. But it looks like Zachary is shuffling, so I don't know what's in his hand, but he might not have the red source.
I was going to say, step 1, shuffle.
Step 1, shuffle.
Yep.
For Reid. So the People's Champion still hoping for a blank here on the red sources. Zachary does have an active Delver Secrets in play, or Insectile Aberration, rather.
Yes. What have you. All right. Reyburn, mystery card coming. Can't get anything out of him.
And ooh, there it is.
Now, will he rough and tumble now? Take care of these 2 things.
Yeah,
Okay. So he's gonna cast rough, deal that 2 damage to all non-flying creatures. Great interaction with that card in this deck, of course.
Yeah.
Making so it doesn't kill Delver of Secrets. It's very unlikely it's ever gonna kill a Tarmogoyf, and Nimble Mongoose is always going to be a 3/3. And so it's never actually going to kill anything. So it's a great interaction with the deck. Clears up the elves from Duke, and Reyburn passes the turn back. The question is he supposed to use the rough and tumble then, or wait for Reid to commit more things to the board? He decided to use it then, did Reyburn?
Well, I like that play, because if Reid does have a Gaia's Cradle natural order and he doesn't have a counterspell for it, he can just search Representatives and lose.
Gets ugly then.
Yeah, so, and Reid does in fact have a Gaia's Cradle in his hand, I believe, so not sure about the natural order, but I think Zachary was sort of making sure, if I can cast it now, I'd rather cast it and regret it than not cast it and really regret it.
Yeah, for sure.
So Reid contemplating what his plan is here. He does have plenty of lands that he can play, so it's not like that. It doesn't seem like that Wasteland is really going to shut him down. So he basically just needs to try to muster a little bit of army here. Zach doesn't have that much gas left in his hand, I believe. So let's see what Reid tries to do here. He does have a Green Sun Zenith, I believe. He also has a Gaia's Cradle, which he can't play this turn because he already played the Misty Rainforest.
Well, there's a Visionary to start, so a little cantripping.
Visionary, one of those cards that you, as an elf player, it seems like innocuous, but it's really just one of those cards that
This is like the bread and butter.
does the work. Yeah,
Yeah,
does
this
the
is
real
the
work.
actual bread and butter
all the
card.
heavy lifting stuff. So Reid draws another land.
And it's kind of funny too because like when they play a Visionary, I think like a high percentage of the time they don't really care if you counter it.
Yeah.
But as the opponent, you're just like, oh no, another card. I don't think so. I have to counter this thing. Or you certainly get a little bit scared when you see Visionary show up to the party. It's just a 1/1. He's going to Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor. Very clear to me he's trying to get to 4 mana. You know, I think I would not be surprised if he brought in Progenitus, and he's trying to get there as quickly as he can.
Yeah, and he has a lot of mana in his hand, so if he does have the natural order, he can play around days fairly easily. It's really the Force of Will, whether or not Zachary has the Force of Will.
So Reyburn will draw a card. Don't forget he can Wasteland, of course. He can't take care of Dryad Arbor or Bayou if
He
he'd like
can,
to.
if he has a Wasteland for the Dryad Arbor and a Bolt for the Elvish Visionary, then natural order is actually turned off, for, at least for a turn.
Well, we're gonna start by pondering, and it's very interesting how he tapped his mana for that ponder because, you know, if he doesn't have a backup red source, then the lightning bolts that he could draw to are going to be off. So, was it purposeful that he used the volcanic island, or was it a misstep? He could have used tropical island.
Yeah, I would imagine that the only reason you would leave the tropical island untapped is if you wanted to cast either a Tarmogoyf or a Nimble Mongoose this turn. So if he has neither of those cards in his hand, then it seems like it probably is just a slight misstep on Zach's part. Because I agree with you. I mean, why would he want to leave the red source up? Your deck is basically all blue and red spells, and the only green cards in your deck are really just Nimble Mongoose Tarmogoyf. So if we don't see one of those come down, I would say it's probably just a misstep.
Well, shuffle with ponder it is for Reyburn. And draw a card. See what he finds.
Plenty of options here. I think you probably want to Wasteland the Dryad Arbor.
It's a good start to things. He's reaching,
And that's
he
exactly
is.
what he does. So Reid currently off of 4 mana. Zachary doesn't know whether or not he has more mana in his hand, but looks like a Scalding Tarn comes down.
Get in for
Insectile
3.
Aberration attacks for 3, dropping Reid to 12. So let's see, what does Zach have? It looks like he's going to have a drop, so he plays Delver Secret. So Delver Secrets come down, Scalding Tarn's up for bluff, maybe potentially signaling a Lightning Bolt, and Reid draws his card for him. So yeah, Reid can cast Natural Order if he does in fact have it. Just at this point, we don't really know. And let me see. Natural Order for Progenitus. You get a 10/10 in play. Your opponent untaps. If Delver flips, he can attack for 6, drop Reid to 6. Progenitus will drop Zachary to 6, but then Reid dies to the Insectile Aberrations the next turn. So yeah, Natural Order. Natural Order for maybe Craterhoof Behemoth, but even that I think is only 11 damage over the course of 2 turns based on what's in play right now. So.
Yeah, natural order, the trigger for Behemoth would happen. Yeah, I think it would become a 6/6 because I believe it does count itself for the trigger. So he would get to attack for 6 hasty damage and then 5 the follow-up turn. Yeah, so that would be 11. So right now I think what Duke is banking on is that Delver Secret's not flipping.
But I believe he set it up with a Ponder, correct?
Shuffled with Ponder.
Oh, he shuffled with Ponder. Okay.
Shuffle with Ponder, Wasteland your Dryad Arbor, play a Scalding Tarn, pass the turn back. Doesn't mean he doesn't have a Brainstorm in his hand to reset up, but right now the top card of Reyburn's deck is a mystery. Duke is going to play a Cradle, and he's going to cast a Natural Order.
Okay, so Natural Order, if he gets Craterhoof Behemoth, Greater Behemoth will be a 7/7, and if he attacks with both, he can attack for 8.
This is scary. Reyburn, take a look at the card in his hand. He says that resolves. What do you think he's going to get?
This would be a fantastic time for Stifle.
Yeah, no kidding.
So yeah, I don't think Progenitus does enough. So he has to get Craterhoof Behemoth. Behemoth triggers, everything gets +2/+2. So this should be enough.
So Behemoth comes into play. Creatures you control, when enters the battlefield, oh no. So I'm wondering if he passed priority on the Craterhoof Behemoth trigger or not. This could get interesting because now you see him reading it.
Let's see what's in his hand. We can't really make out what's in his hand here, but yeah. Reid, fortunately, he had another creature and a Gaia's Cradle, which is the only. That's really what he needed, a 1-drop and a Gaia's Cradle in order to be able to get enough damage with the Crater of Behemoth. Because if he just played a land, natural order, my Elvish Visionary, I don't think that's enough. That's only 12 damage over the course of 2 turns. So, pretty good situation for Reid right here. Submerge would be good.
That would be good.
But let's see what Zachary has here. Yeah, maybe he was thinking Submerge and with the trigger on the stack. But if it's Stifle and he missed the trigger, then that's unfortunate. Let's see. Is Zachary just going to take 9 here? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so 10 damage will put him at 6, and then he would be able to attack for the follow-up 6 next turn.
Well, if Zachary does have a blocker, like if Zachary has either a Tarmogoyf or a Nimble Mongoose or another Delver Secrets, he's still in okay shape.
Yep.
Because both creatures won't have Trample next turn. They only have Trample when the Behemoth enters play.
You see Reid going to add up the damage for him. It is going to be 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. Reyburn going to go down to 6. Checking for Blackjack. It's a Brainstorm. Oh, wow, Brainstorm.
That is a good reveal. Not only does it flip Delver, but it gets him 3 cards deeper to try to find a Chump Blocker or Submerge possibly.
Yeah, that's a big reveal there by Reyburn.
So let's see here. We're going to see a main phase Brainstorm to try to see what our plan is going to be. Oh, no, it looks like
he's just going to start by attacking.
Looks like he has it.
Feeling confident? This looks like a blocker, right? There's the Tarmogoyf. And he has Brainstorm as backup. Boy, I don't know what Duke can do to get out of this right now.
Another natural order.
He does have 2 Crater Hoofs. Let's see what he draws.
He has a Deathrite Shaman, and at least he has a Deathrite Shaman, I believe a Windswept Heath. I'm not sure if there's only 2 cards left.
And he's going to start by attacking.
I would imagine Tarmogoyf is going to jump in front.
Oh. I'm not even sure how big that Tarmogoyf is. There's a sorcery down there from Rough and Tumble. There's an instant, I believe, from from Dismember.
I believe it's a 4/5.
Yeah, we'll get the Tarmogoyf die out on the screen for you guys, but I believe it is a 4/5. We got sorcery, creature, instant, land. No artifacts around these parts. Certainly no enchantments.
Yeah, sorcery,
no
creature, instant, land.
Yeah. So Tarmogoyf going to bite the dust. Reyburn going to go to 5. Duke. I'm going to play a Deathrite Shaman.
Ah, the good old Duke who never concedes. I'm glad he's back.
Never scoop it up. Make him kill ya. I love it.
I'm glad he's back.
And he's going to turn him sideways. And that is it. Zachary Reyburn wins this match 2-1 over Reid. Duke, Rugged Delver, able to defeat combo elves, and it was off the back of that Delver Secrets flipping on that last turn. If that doesn't happen, I'm not sure Reyburn wins, but it does happen, and Reyburn moves on to 3-0, defeating the birthday boy and the runner-up in the Players' Championship.
Yeah,
good
that
match.
was
good match.
That was a great reveal of Delver Secrets.
Yeah, no kidding.
Again, the odds are that Delver's probably going to flip in that situation based on the high spell count left in his deck and the low land count. There's not that many creatures. He has more than 50% of his deck is spells, I believe. So, but the fact that it was a Brainstorm, I mean, he didn't even end up having to cast it, but still, made it very exciting.
We put a lot of attention there on Reid, and obviously so. Reid is a very familiar face on the Open Series circuit and Magic in general, but I think Reyburn played quite well over the course of those games. Just the pondering and all of that stuff. Obviously we didn't get to get a good look at everything he did, but there wasn't anything that, watching those games that I was, I didn't really disagree with.